Hello and welcome to the RealIn convention. My name is Melanie Stein and I'm very happy to guide you through. Today we want to get rid of VR lenses and headphones and find out how we can use XR technologies for new immersive narratives that are collective and interactive. So let's get rid of this. So we have prepared panels for you, we have showcases, and some of you will also become active themselves during our workshops at 12:30. But for now, we start with some words of welcome by Brigitte Zypries. She is the former German Federal Minister for Economic Affairs and Energy.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be wondering why a former Minister of Economy is speaking at the RealIn convention. Well, the RealIn consortium was serious when they announced that with RealIn they will activate multidisciplinary synergies in a co-creation process between creatives, coders, and creative industries. They want to break silos between creative sectors. And I have to add, we in Europe have to break silos between the creative and the regular industry. When we talk about Industry 4.0, we mean the networking of hardware and software. It is the key element. Spectacles, computer classes that display digital content will soon be a common tool for mechanics and used in various ways. And when it comes to gamification, no one has thought of computer games for quite some time, especially if you are responsible in human resources or marketing. RealIn thought it is time to find an answer to the question, how can we unleash the amazing potential of extended reality technologies for new types of immersive narratives that are collective and interactive? You will have the privilege to inspire new ways to access and experience and share cultural and creative contents related to performing arts, music, interactive arts, and fashion and design. Ladies and gentlemen, since we all know that no country in Europe can solve its problem by its own, I'm very glad that RealIn is European. It is an alliance of two major European festivals, La Manufacture from Avignon and the Vrham Festival from Hamburg. They are accompanied by Meet from Milan, Espronceda from Barcelona, and Dark Euphoria from Marseille. So you will get an impression of what is up in Europe and experience new, innovative and interactive possibilities. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic journey. Enjoy.
Brigitte Zypries just said it. RealIn is an alliance by 5 major cultural institutions, and one of them is Vrham, the VR festival in Hamburg. And I'm very happy to introduce to you the director of Vrham, Ulrich Strauß.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Dear Brigitte Zypries, dear visitors, dear speakers, dear partners, I'm equally happy and excited to open our RealIn convention for interactive arts today as part of Vrham Virtual Reality and Arts Festival Hamburg. We can't wait to share our findings of research in the topic and the incredible insight of our panelists with you today. But why does Vrham Festival participate in this project in the first place, and what does RealIn stand for? What does this program actually explore? Let me answer by quoting one of our festival visitors last Saturday. I can't believe this is happening. I'm finally able to experience art together with other people again. And she had this big smile on her face. If it is one thing that we found out during festivals so far, it is people really want to get back together. They want to explore art as a community. This pandemic has shown that we are capable of surviving a lot as a species, and one might be surprised of our resilience. But we all know people are eager to come back together. We want to be social again. We want to broaden our horizon by expanding the canvas, to get new insights and share ideas and dreams. And this is what Vrham Festival stands for since its first edition 4 years ago. We want to invite visitors from Hamburg and all over the world to experience immersive art together, bridge the gap between technology and artistic practice, and lower the barriers for audiences to engage with this kind of artworks. With this in mind, we have set out on a quest together with 4 amazing partners from Europe: Meet Center Milan, Espronceda Barcelona, La Manufacture Avignon, Dark Euphoria in Marseille. We want to explore if we can find new forms of immersive engagement with emerging technologies. See if we can make meaningful connections through stories in technology and give artists and creators new tools at hand to tell their stories. Immersive technologies often have the disadvantage to separate people only because of how they are technically built. We want to find out how to connect audiences in a collaborative and participative moment through art. We strongly believe that the technology used by Dark Euphoria and Inlumin can present new tools and pave the way for meaningful connection. We will hear a bit more about the project and the aims and objectives of RealIn later, but just to mention at this point that each of us partners is giving out residencies to artistic teams to explore this new technology and is organizing a conference with experts from the field to discuss and explore. And this conference today is the first one of them and is focused on interactive arts. We had originally envisioned this as a physical convention here in Hamburg, and we're really excited to welcome people here. But due to the circumstances, we have developed a hybrid format to make it as accessible as possible for all European stakeholders. We are very excited to have brought together a wide range of speakers and experts who will give you an insight into their knowledge and will share their experience with you. And now I don't want to keep you longer from what we are all waiting for. I just want to take the opportunity to thank all our partners who are involved in this project. I want to thank Creative Europe for their support, also our cooperation partner Kreativgesellschaft Hamburg, and last but not least, I want to thank my amazing team, which has worked tirelessly to pull all of this off. And now, have a great conference and enjoy the experience.
Thank you so much, Ulrich. And we know that new technologies also affect new business models and the creative industry. And there's one man who's very aware of this. He's the Managing Director of the Kreativgesellschaft in Hamburg. Welcome, Egbert Röhl.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the possibility and chance to say some words in the opening of the first convention that is part of the We Are Ham Festival, but it is also the first of 4 RealIn conventions being part of the European RealIn project founded by Creative Europe program. The We Are Ham Festival is characterized by the fact that it is always 1, maybe 2 steps ahead. When it started in 2018, it was guided by the idea of bringing the emerging technology of virtual and augmented reality together with the arts, trying to explore the possibilities of VR and AR for the arts and vice versa. Now, with this convention embedded in the European In Real project, the We Are Ham Festival generates the useful knowledge to be used for the development of the creative industries. We, as Hamburg Kreativgesellschaft share the assessment and the knowledge that a deeper understanding of new technologies forms the basis of new services, products, and business models for the creative industries, and which are often then non-technological innovations at the interface between art, economy, and the creativity. With this convention, the Vrham Festival is again one step ahead. My best wishes for a successful, insightful, and pleasant conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Egbert. And now we are going back in the years and also have a look into the future of immersive environments. You're going to listen to a lightning talk by Christiane Paul, the director of Sheila C. John Design Center.
Hello, and thanks so much for inviting me to give a lightning talk, which will be a very cursory overview of histories and possible futures of immersive environments. You could say that immersive environments have always developed on two tracks. On the one hand, the IMAX style kind of projection environment that surrounds us, and on the other hand, the total immersion of the body in contraptions that ultimately led to virtual reality setups. So in 1968, we have Ivan Sutherland's head-mounted display, and then later in the 80s, Jaron Lanier adds the data glove. But what I'm going to talk about today is the immersion of environments that surround us rather than the total immersion in virtual realities. So when it comes to that, you can also trace it back for many centuries, ultimately the caves of Lascaux, or the many wall murals within ancient Roman villas, for example. What is interesting here, and the reason I'm pointing it out, is that those environments already tried to tell stories that would surround you. So one action would start on, let's say, the left wall and continue on the right to give you the illusion that there is an ongoing narrative that unfolds behind you. When it comes to histories, we also have to bring up Myron Kruger, who already in the 1970s created immersive environments where people could interact with each other. What is interesting here is that Kruger wasn't a fan of virtual reality, but created what he called artificial reality, since the terms mixed reality didn't exist yet, and created environments in which people fully embodied could engage in interactions with each other. Another important example would be Geoffrey Shaw's Legible City. Of course, all of these environments are technologically crude by today's standards, but I think they laid groundwork for what we're going to see in the future. In the Legible City, you were able to basically cruise through an immersive environment consisting of texts arranged according to the floor plans of cities such as New York or Karlsruhe. So you would navigate your way through stories that were being told here. Also notable in this context are the many projects that engaged with interactive cinema. I just want to give one example, Tony Dove's Artificial Changelings and Spectropia. So these are ultimately cinematic environments that you navigate with your body. Artificial Changelings tells the story of a kleptomaniac in the 19th century and an encryption hacker in the future. And as a viewer participant, you would navigate this piece by stepping onto different zones into the room. So the zone closest to the projection would bring you into the head of a character. And as you would be moving back, a character would address you directly, or you would be able to switch between centuries. And the reason I'm bringing all of these up is that I believe we're going to see many of these embodied interaction strategies more integrated into the type of immersive environments that we're seeing right now. So here another screenshot of Tony Dove's work, just to give you an idea of how bodies of two people could navigate that environment. When it comes to immersive pieces, we also need to mention Yayoi Kusama, who started doing infinity rooms in the 1960s. And right now you're seeing many of these revived and installed again in immersive event spaces. So in the past few years, we have seen an enormous amount of these spaces coming up. One example would be Limes, live immersive entertainment spaces. The reason I'm bringing up this example is that the environment that is being created here is set up for multiple uses. It could be an immersive projection environment, but at the same time, you could also have large-scale events, symphony orchestras performing in these immersive spaces. Another example in New York City would be Artec House, which shows rotating immersive installations. Right now, you're looking at Rafik Anadol's Machine Hallucination. That was an exhibition based on AI-generated imagery, in this case, non-interactive. And in this context, one also needs to mention TeamLab, who have created so many embodied interactive installations. So what you see here is Boundaries, one of the pieces that involves the universe of water particles. And as you can see, the water here reacts to the viewer in that it flows around them. What is interesting about TeamLab's environment, I think, is that they translate the spatial logic of ancient Japanese or Asian scrolls into digital space, creating what they refer to as ultra-subjective space, in which viewers become part of this environment from multiple viewpoints. So there's a certain kind of flatness to it, but from a perspectival angle, you have a different kind of subjective space being created here. And the final example I want to mention is work by Federico Zolmi. You're looking at the Bacchanalian ones, one of his many animations that are dealing with power structures. So this work has been shown on screens and also in large-scale immersive environments. But the reason I'm bringing it up is that Federico Zolmi more recently also started experimenting with creating VR versions so that you would, on the one hand, have an exhibition space in which the animation is shown, but viewers also remotely could participate in the space, logging in through VR chat. So my prediction for the future of immersive environments is that we're going to see a lot more of this kind of embodied interaction that earlier pieces have explored with full body tracking and more complex narrative. And then also the participation by remote viewers in these types of environments. And I'll leave it right here. Thank you very much.
Inspiring. Now I'm very happy to talk to two industry experts about the advancement of immersive technologies. I'm very happy that Tina Sauerländer is here today. She's historian, curator, the artistic director of VR Art Prize by DKB and the co-founder and CEO of Radiance VR. Good to have you here, Tina. And with us is also Christopher Bauder. He is the CEO and creative director of White Void Berlin. And he just opened a long-term installation in Berlin, Dark Matter. So, Christopher, how do you work? What have you created not using VR to produce immersive environments?
Yeah, let's stay with dark matter. Dark matter is a kind of a parallel world that takes you on a journey to space, sound, and motion. And we're using all kinds of technologies, from LEDs to OLEDs to projection mapping. Some of the installations are interactive, some you can create your own sound, so it's a kind of immersive
environment. Sorry to interrupt, I think we also have some pictures to see it maybe.
Yeah, here you see, exactly, that's the one installation grid, another one circular, a more smaller one. This is a projection mapping project, almost 15 years old, interactive. And here you see an overview of the exhibition with 7 rooms. This is Inverse, a very new piece from this year. And altogether, it's dark matter.
Okay, and we can see it, so it's open now in Berlin.
It's permanent, hopefully. I mean, given the circumstances, but yes, we are open now. And yes, check our website, darkmatter.berlin.
We will. Tina, you as a curator, you have also seen many immersive environments. So what really has impressed you, and where do you think we are heading in the future?
Yeah, well, when it comes to physical immersive installations, one point is very important, and these are, of course, big projection screens. Christiane also talked about this already. And another point is the interface we interact with the virtual world. And one tool that expresses me the most is when artists use their own bodies, the bodies as an interface with the virtual world. And artists who did this are Christa Sommerer and Laurent Mignon with their installation Interactive Plant Growing, which we also see here in a picture. And here you stand in front of the big screen and you're moving around, you move your arms, and with your movements, you create plants, you let plants grow on the screen. So with your own physical interaction, you create the virtual world. And another artist who's doing this is Lauren Moffat and her physical installation at the show Resonant Realities, which takes place until the 4th of July at Haus am Lützowplatz in Berlin. We can see that she has created a physical installation where we can immerse as a social space, but as a part, she also has a virtual reality piece. And when we step physically, one step in the physical space, we also step one step in the virtual world into the heads of the protagonists, and also here, their own body becomes the interface with the virtual world, and I find this really impressive.
Wow. Well, here in Hamburg, here at the Vrham Festival, we have great VR experiences, and I can invite you all to come here and see them. But in some cases, VR is maybe not the best choice, Christopher. When would you say should we use it, and when are different technologies and environments better?
I mean, VR or AR, it's a technology. So each technology has a certain kind of application or a certain kind of content that makes sense to use in that environment. So I'm a very critical user of new technology. I'm not like an early adopter. I'm not jumping on it because there is a new technology, but I'm looking for the sense why to use it, in what context, what does it bring as a medium that I cannot have in another medium like projection mapping or an environmental mapping. I mean, immersiveness, of course, is one of these topics, but it should be used for a certain purpose. So why are you using this tool? So yeah, I think it's a great tool and I'm using it for many years. But I also decided to stay in the physical world mostly with my installations, taking inspiration from the virtual environment and trying to transform that into the physical world. Because as we saw through Corona, we want to connect. We want to physically connect. It's nice to have a surrogate. It's nice to have Zoom and other tools. Maybe in the future we are meeting in VR. But we're still humans and we want to connect physically. And VR is a simulation. It always will be a simulation. So I really like the tool, but I'm also skeptical about it at the same time.
So meeting in VR, meeting at a Burning Man festival in VR is not the best thing?
No, that was exactly the worst example. The worst example of the last year. I checked a lot of these kind of online festivals that are, some of them beautifully made in VR, and you could interact with other people and so on. Very nice. But the virtual reality Burning Man was the biggest fail ever, because nothing of Burning Man translates into virtual reality. There's dust, you're in the desert, there's huge installations that are bigger than yourself, they're physically made, there's other people, you take substances eventually, and it's a real life experience. And the only thing they were transforming into VR was superhuman scale sculptures, but that's not impressive in VR. In VR, reality doesn't exist. I don't need to have a ground that I'm standing on. I can float, I can do whatever I want, I can be small, I can be big. None of this was translated. They just built a desert flat with some big sculptures. It was empty, there was no music, it was dead. So that was a very disappointing example, but there were also other very beautiful examples where it really works well.
Tina, Christopher just said you really need a purpose. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, I totally understand that. I can totally understand that the Burning Man Festival is something that did not work well in virtual reality, because people who create these kind of virtual experiences, social virtual experiences, have also to think about the conditions of each world where they plan events. And if you plan in a physical world, it's a different thing when you plan it in a virtual world. Both worlds have its own conditions, and if you don't pay attention to them and what it actually means to be there, then these things won't work. You cannot translate a thing like Burning Man into VR, but you can maybe create an experience with other conditions that then works and then also feels as an authentic social experience for the people. And I think that's a really important thing that should people really think of when they create virtual worlds, to pay attention to the conditions.
Yeah, so what can you name some examples? When do you think VR is really great to use?
Well, for example, it is a web VR exhibition we curated last year, and we made a virtual space for an exhibition, and we decided not to have normal walls, but to have maybe another surface, to have an exhibition architecture made of big hands, being surrounded by big hands, by a water surface where we can walk in, something that we couldn't access in real life. We couldn't walk on water in the physical, but we could do this in VR. And the same with the hands. Here they are very physical, but in VR we can just float through them. And with that we created a kind of experience that is true to the values or conditions of the virtual space or the digital space. And I think that's real important.
You want to add something?
Yeah, well, I saw a really nice work of Pussy Crew. It's I think they're from Russia or Ukraine, I'm not sure, and they have a really nice. It's like a jump and run game. So they basically hijacked it was Unreal Engine, I think, based on, but it was you were in worlds that are not physically possible. You cannot simulate them in reality. So everything was kind of very surreal. Even your characters that you could choose, they were like hanging down in pieces and half transparent, and in a very interactive and very nice way you could explore a world that's far beyond what we have. And that I really liked about it. They took action in terms of using the medium to the absolute maximum of creativity that you can do in VR, which is not possible in any other medium. So in that sense, I really like that work, for example.
Mm-hmm. You really try to combine or connect the virtual world and the real world. How do you do that?
For me, it was more exporting from the virtual world to the real world. I got in contact with virtual reality and glasses and all that stuff very early. I studied in School of the Arts Institute in Chicago in 2001 in virtual reality class, which was very early, but the technology was very restricted at that time, very low resolution, small field of view. But I really liked the worlds that you could create with it. But I was always thinking about, okay, but how can I get it out of the glasses, out of the screen? I never liked the screen as a display device. How can I get it out and into the world? And that's how I started to think about three-dimensional pixels and how to recreate shapes in physical space that I export from a 3D software. And I started to create tools to do that. So that was my way to kind of deal with virtual reality in physical reality.
Mm-hmm. Tina, what do you think, which XR technologies are we using in the future? What will be important?
Well, there will be several things important for the future. One thing is that the interfaces we use to access the digital world or the virtual world will hopefully become more intuitive. We're very much used to the computer mouse and the keyboard, but as we have seen, also the own body, the hands can be used to access and interact with the virtual world. And I hope to see this more in the future, not only in arts, but also in daily life. And another thing is that this kind of installation, physical immersive installation like Dark Matter or Team Lab or Artec House installations will also become much more part of our society also in art. And the last thing is that augmented reality, which is a little behind now in terms of immersion, because we have to perceive it on the screen, on the phone screen or whatever, not via the headset, because the technology is not that advanced, it's not in a good quality, and it's much more expensive than virtual reality technologies. I hope that also AR will soon be available in good quality for a headset. And saying all these things taken together, of course, the virtual and the physical world will meld more and more together. There will be a variety of interfaces, intuitive interfaces, and possibilities of projections and depiction of the virtual world, where we will delve ourselves in.
So there are many people probably on the screen who want to be inspired by you. Do you maybe have ideas or recommendations others could also use?
I don't know, just use all the tools, make the best out of what's there. Because for me personally, I'm doing that for more than 20 years, and I was always lacking the technology at the beginning. There was not enough processing power, resolution wasn't high enough, all these kind of things. It's all gone now. Like if I want to create something, a VR piece, a AR piece, yes, there's a little bit of lag, but it's already quite good. All the technology that's available allows me to create out of the full. Like I have an idea, I imagine something, it's possibly not a problem to do it. And that's a great advantage of artists or designers emerging today. They have this variety of tools already there, and they can start to create right away. They don't need to bother with the tools. When I started, I needed to bother with creating my own tracking devices. I was hacking cameras and infrared lights and so on. Now you just buy a Kinect and you're good to go. You can track your whole body, you can scan. So I think it's never been that easy to access technology to be creative today in whatever you like. And I think that's fantastic, and this will only get better into the future. So I'm really very excited about everything that's possible at the moment, and that's encouraging, and that should be encouraging enough to everyone. Just try all the tools and find your own way that works best for you, for your creation.
We will learn more about the Kinect and 3D scanning technologies later as well. But maybe it can also be a bit overwhelming, right? I mean, everything is available, but where to start? And so how do you work? Do you need big teams, or how do you work?
I personally have a very big team. What I'm doing is, okay, my name is on it, but also White Void. My studio is very big on dark matter as a creator. These works that I'm doing and that we are doing, it's massive teamwork. It's not possible anymore for one person to work in these environments. I have more than 30 employees at the moment, from engineers to programmers and they're also all creative people. So big parts of the installations that I'm doing and that might be presented under my name, there's a lot of creative work of other people in it. And I also think that's very important and very interesting to co-create. I'm more like a director in a movie. I'm directing kind of roughly those things, but there's many people involved that have much more talent in that specific field of expertise than myself. So it's a very collaborative effort, all of the installations.
Well, I hope you all could hear us well. There was a train going. Well, okay, you need big teams, and this is probably also quite costly, right?
Well, yeah, for sure. So as a curator, I also work with big teams, usually like realizing a show like Resonant Realities is also, of course, a big team effort. Peer to Space now consists of 6 curators collaborating together. And yeah, well, it's definitely costly. Luckily, there are funders, there are institutions who, are now also interested in investing the money in the digital art and digital artworks. And this is a very kind of new thing that happened during the COVID pandemic last year, that also, especially in Germany, the German institutions want to keep up with the technology and want to exhibit virtual reality or immersive interactive installations. So this whole awareness of new technologies in art changed a lot, and I think that's a really important outcome of the pandemic.
So COVID has its good sides.
Well,
I think so. Also for us, it was it was very bad because all the jobs were gone, but it gave us time to work on our own creative pieces and work on dark matter. And so it's a challenging time, but it's also gives new impulses. And I totally agree. I mean, I'm working in this kind of scene for more than 20 years, and there were always these underground fantastic festivals like MUTEC, CTM Festival, Transmediale Festival. They were always around, but it never leaped over to the more traditional or the larger scale museum on art market. And now all of a sudden that's a thing. I'm like, okay, it was a thing for me already for 20 years, but it's good that we get the public attention now, and that there's groups like Team Lab kind of spearheading this kind of developments, whatever you might say about what they do and how they do it, but they opened the eyes of many people, even collectors, starting to think about, maybe I could collect an NFT, a virtual art piece. There's new ways for artists to make money, which is very important. I mean, there was crowdfunding before and other tools, but now you can directly sell your certified digital art piece, which was one reason why I moved out of digital art, because there was no way to make money with it. No one would show it. You can share it for free. Why would I pay for it? And now there's a tool with blockchain technology to make directly money as an artist and even profit if it's resold, your art piece. And that's also a fantastic new way, I think, how art is treated, digital art is treated.
That's a very good development, but isn't it still 2D, or can you really also sell VR as an NFT?
I think they do, yeah.
Yeah, they do?
Yeah.
well, for now, how NFTs are presented is a kind of backlash. It's presented on website as JPEG or small videos.
Yeah.
But of course, now with social VR and web VR, much more social and interactive and spatial possibilities are there for digital art, and I really hope that for the NFT community this will also be, or it will surely be important also in the next years or months for them to display this kind of art differently.
Yeah, I think the problem is the platform also. What common platform do we use to present VR on the web or without special tools that I need to buy? So there's not this unified, I don't know, format or something that you need. Everyone knows a JPEG now or a PDF. But that was also something that came up as a new format at some point, and there's still this one format how to share a VR piece is not really existing. So I think this will form in the next couple months, years maybe, and then that will have a good chance that everyone is kind of on the same level.
So we learned, Christopher, you didn't like the Burning Man that much, but would you walk into a VR gallery buying NFT arts?
Me personally, I'm not an art collector.
Okay.
Because I'm an art creator, so I kind of closer to those people. I love what they do, but for me, that's my environment. I'm not, I don't know. I never bought an art piece, I think, in my whole life. But I admire a lot of artists that work in these environments, and I share their work, and we exchange and we check each other's art pieces and so on. So I'm not directly interested in buying an NFT, but of course I'm interested in using the tool to sell art, or I'm interested in developing NFTs further, for example, to also use it for physical art pieces. Why not tokenize or split down a physical art piece so a lot of people can own a share of it, a bit like owning a stock of a company. Why not own a share of a big art piece? You cannot own it alone, but you can have your own section. You can maybe even co-decide what's happening with the art piece, where it is exhibited, things like that. So I'm very interested in this kind of creating a community for art pieces. So that could be an interesting development out of this.
So let's see whether we can tokenize this talk.
For example.
Are you an art collector?
Well, also not really, actually. And yeah, for NFTs, I personally think it's not that sustainable now. As I said, I feel it's a kind of a backlash in terms of how you can exhibit art in a virtual realm. So for me, I kind of wait a little and see what will be happening in the future with the NFT community.
Okay, so I'd like to come to an end. Maybe both of you can say what are your next projects? Where can we meet you next? Tina, would you like to start?
Well, we are preparing an augmented reality exhibition, which we can all then perceive via the smartphone screen. It's a show of the MoMA, as a MoMA plus Air, MoMA AR, and it will be a group show on cyber ecology, which will launch on September 10th.
Okay, great.
Of course, I'm still very much involved with dark matter. We just opened last week, so we're still working out all the kinks and trying to figure out how to handle the masses of people that are actually coming. And now after this, I will travel to Amsterdam. We will do a show at the Bach Festival. So it's a mix of classic and electronic music. And we will use kinetics and lasers. And it's an exhibition and also some live shows there.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks
Thank you
for coming. And you have learned that the RealIn program is an alliance by 5 cultural institutions. One of them is Vrham, and another one is Dark Euphoria, a company. And I'm very happy that we have the founder of Dark Euphoria here now. It's Mathieu Rosier and his colleague, the head of production, Marie Albert. And Mathieu will start with a talk now, and later you will meet Marie. Have fun.
Thank you, Melanie. Hello, you all. It's so glad to see you live from Hamburg on this stage of the RealIn convention and of the Vrham. I know that we are speaking about virtual worlds, but believe me, it's so cool to do it on a real stage with real people. So I'm Mathieu Rosier, I'm the founder of Dark Euphoria, art, science and technology company based in Marseille in the south of France. And I'm also the founder of several other companies, all dealing with creativity and technology. And if I am sharing that with you, it's not by pretension, it's to explain you why we have a kind of very entrepreneurial way to produce artistic projects. We often use the grants from innovation than the ones coming from the artistic grants. So what we do in Dark Euphoria really is linked with emotion. If my clicker, yes, with emotion and with passion. First of all, we have passion for new narratives. As you can see, we want to begin this keynote with the narrative part. Narrative is at the heart of all what we do. We never answer to artists that are asking us, artificial wow effects. We do not use technology to create singular moments. What we want to do is to provide artists the technology and the service to create new words at the service of their narration. That's why, and I'm really speaking to all the artists that are watching us live now, if you have an idea, don't wait for having the real specification, the final vision of what you want to do. Just contact us or contact any kind of technology studio, because we are here to create a co-creative process with you to give a new form of your idea. So that's what we do, and that's why the narrative part is at the heart of our process. We have also a passion for collective emotion, and in that sentence, the main word is collective. We used to produce VR for the Festival of Avignon, the well-known performing arts festival in south of France. And we have produced VR installation with the well-known directors of this festival, such as Olivier Pi and Philippe Découfflet. And we have to manage all the helmets. And we really had the sensation that the helmets, and I know I'm telling that from the VR stage of Vrham, but was separating people one from the other. And what we want to do at Dark Euphoria is to allow artists to create collective moments for the audience. We want the audience to really feel a magical moment. And we really believe that this moment, this emotion, doesn't come from only the artistic work, but also from the feelings of all the people around you that are watching live the same thing. That's why we are working on artificial intelligence, on augmented reality, and on big immersive display to create this kind of collective emotion. Second part is the emotion. To do that, we have one only motto. We want the technology to be 100% transparent. If you see the technology, you lose the emotion, you lose the magical part. That's why we are asking our developers to create installation with any kind of remote or of joysticks. You come as you are, and something is happening. And you will see in a few minutes with our developers, Vincent, developers of Illumine, Vincent and Nicolas, that it's a very challenging demand to create a 100 transparent installation. But it's very important for us, and it's at the heart of our process. Finally, we have a passion for hybridization. We want to create hybrid worlds. We want to mix people, of course, from performing arts with coders. We want to mix people from the 3D real-time engines with the traditional pieces. And I really want to benefit from this stage to have a special address to all the people, perhaps they are watching us now, that are managing traditional cultural places. I mean the museum, the theaters. You are the key parts of our processes. You are our key partners. I really think that all this digital revolution, all those new digital artworks are not a threat for you. You are the only one that can really help us to create them. Why? Because you can welcome our residencies, and you will see with Marie in a few minutes that, yes, with Marie, in a few minutes, that the residencies is something very important to create this complex project. And all the traditional places, they really have this strong experience of welcoming groups and making the mediation with art, and all of our projects rely on a very strong relationship with festivals and with museums or theaters. So we welcome you, and if you have projects, also don't hesitate to create a talk. We can make partnerships. Emotion is good, passion is good, but it's not enough. To create what the artists demand and what the audience is asking for, you need to handle challenging technology. Why is the tech challenging? It doesn't come from the tech, it comes from the way we produce our project. We do not have any kind of catalogs. We are technological agnostics. We do not have any kind of ready-made installation of our application. We have a strong network of developers, a strong network of partners, and we are a co-creation partners to imagine installation for tomorrow, to imagine technology for tomorrow, and after to give to the community the keys of our technology. And that's what we are doing now with this RealIn convention, sharing with you the technology that we have developed for 4th of a Daydream, and you will have some clues about that with Marie in a few minutes. So because we do not know by advance what we are doing, because we are at the service of the artist, because we want to imagine something new, we do not have any kind of specification, we do not know what will be the budget, and we do not know how to do it. For instance, we have produced this great project in Nîmes, you know, the town at the south of France, and we have enlightened a whole school based on the online measurement of the smiles of all the school boys and girls. Once we had the idea with this wonderful artist from the south of France, Diego Ortiz, and I'm giving him a big hug if he's watching. With Diego, once we had this idea, we have spent 1 year to find the good guys, to find the good budget and the good way to produce it. At the beginning, when we have sold the ideas, when we have found the way to produce it in terms of financial, we do not have any clue on how technologically we could produce it. But then we found a way. So that's why all of our projects are really challenging. It's because it's new and we do not know if how we will do it. Once we have said that, we still have 3 pillars in our development, in our technological development. First of all, we are working on immersive environments. I was sharing with you a few minutes ago our adventure in Avignon with the helmet VR, with the VR helmets. And after that, we have decided to develop our own immersive cylinder. So you know the immersive cylinder, it's a cylinder, the ours it's a 9 meters diameter cylinder with a 3 meters high screen. And inside these cylinders, you will have immersive moments. So we have developed our own just to have a playground and to have, you know, this kind of prototyping device to test what works, what doesn't work, to give the artist the possibility to give a new dimension to their artwork. So we have developed this immersive environment, and you will see that this is this installation that is at the heart of the Force of a Daydream installation. So I don't want to spoil you, and you will see other images of that. What you see on the screen, it's the vision of our volumetric capture device that can, in real time, guess all the movement of a crowd inside the cylinder. But we use the cylinder, but we use also AI, as I said, and augmented reality. We are working on interaction, of course. If you want to engage the audience, you have to work on interaction. But what we are working on is collective interaction. We do not want people to have one interaction and another guy having another interaction. We want to create whole collective interaction within a network. To do that, we use 3 main technologies. We are working on volumetric capture, as you will say with Illumine. We are working with crowd detection and of course with motion capture. This is an image from a Force of a Daydream where people are collectively trying to make Chloe live at the end of Force of a Daydream. Of course, all of our ambition relies on one single word. In fact, there is 2 words: real time. To create emotion, to create collective interaction, to create a new world, you have to deal with real time. Real time is the revolution. It is not the 3D, it is not the augmented reality, it is not the artificial intelligence, it's the real time. How do you handle real time? How do you put the audience in the heart of the artwork? How do you create an artwork by the audience and not only by the artist? How do you leave space to the audience? This is at the heart of all our work, and we have developed a little experience with Force of a Daydream. It was 4 years of R&D to create the volumetric capture device, and we are very happy to share this experience with you. So don't hesitate if you have any question. I know it's quite annoying to have just this vision at the beginning of the keynote, but I really want to share with you our belief, and now with Marie and Nicolas and Vincent, you will be able to enter in the details of our project. If you have any question, please contact us on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. We are here to hear from you. We are here to share with you. So don't hesitate and to contact all the members of the RealIn convention, because they are all those members are really motivated by this key question, and we are at your service. Thank you. And now I'm very happy to leave the floor to Marie-Albert.
Thank you very much, Mathieu, and hello everybody. I'm very happy also to be part of this program. So as Mathieu just explained, what we really want to focus at Dark Euphoria is this new ways of engaging audiences, meaning that we don't only want to give access to people to innovative artistic formats, but we really want to leave them the space to also express their own creativity. So then the question becomes how we can allow people to enjoy, but also to build their own collective artistic experiences. A very nice and fun project we did in this way was the dance participative performance we designed for the Museum, the beautiful Museum of Mediterranean Culture in Marseille. They were just launching their first digital exhibition about the topic of dance, called On Danse. And we wondered together how we could propose for the opening of the exhibition a participative performance that could be on display all night long, and that could be generated and that could be generated by the visitors themselves. So we invited the Ballet National of Marseille and the choreographer Éric Mincon-Castin to propose a participative dance performance that we combined with the 3D volumetric scanning of the person to recreate this participative dance floor in the digital world. So let me show you first the video so everything will become more clear to you. So what was really interesting in this performance is that at one point, after the dancer started to lead the performance, we totally let the device being operated by the visitors themselves, by the spectators themselves. And they could create their own dance performance. And when we talk about new ways of engaging audiences, for us, most of the time, it's also dealing with new ways of engaging with artists. Because as Mathieu explained just before, most of the time in the project we support and produce, we start the discussion with artists at a very, very early stage. Meaning that we first start from, let's say, a dream or a common story we want to tell. But most of the time, we have actually not any clue about how it will be technically feasible, which is quite challenging, but also very exciting for us. And this is what happened with the project L'écume des jours, Frost on the Daydream XR. When we met Julie Desmet-Weaver, she's a stage director coming more from the theater and dance world. And she told us about her dream to realize an adaptation of the super famous French novel written by Boris Vian in 1947. And around this, let's say, treasure of the literary French heritage, she wanted to create an interactive story, mixing sound, mixing theater, cinema, and literature. And then we gathered from this idea, from this first idea, we gathered a team with technical partners in Lumine that you will have the chance to meet in a few minutes, with sound engineers, sound designers, visual artists, a film production, and also the organization who was in charge of the heritage of Boris Vian. And for 3 years, we worked and experimented to finally achieve this 15 minutes of collective experience where the spectators, without no headset, without no joysticks, can totally dive in the heart of the universe of Borivian and trigger the funny or dramatic situations that can make the story advance, meaning that they're really part of the story, they're really actors of the story. And actually, I don't tell you too much more about this project because in a few minutes you will know all the, let's say, technological secrets behind this unique experience that use 3D scanning, real-time interaction, and mapping to really produce this immersive and interactive collective experience. So, how can we make this artistic innovation happen? The first fun fact is, for example, with Frost on the Daydream XR, we received actually our first artistic fundings 1.5 years after we started the project. And actually the Kickstarters for us was the European Commission program, but the research and innovation program of the European Commission, and especially the START program, Science, Technology and the Art. The goal is really to put together artists, scientists, engineers, researchers, not only for artistic creation, but for innovation purposes. And really, this first funding helped us to meet Julie, to take part in this Art and Tech Residency European program, and to start to work on the artistic writing, but also on the technological challenges from the beginning of the project. This is also the same thing actually for the RealIn project, where we really want to explore immersive and interactive technologies with no, let's say, pressure on final production, final artistic production. Because as even if we are a production agency at Euphoria, we realized that we really needed this time and space for exploration and experimentation if we want this artistic innovation to happen. For example, in the RealIn project, we will host 4 exploratory residencies in Marseille with our technical developers, not to produce an artwork, but really to support the artist in experimenting with new tools, in trying new solutions, finding how they can implement this type of natural and instinctive interaction in their projects. And for us, this is really important. You will have just after also an insight on the RealIn project with the amazing Daisel team, which is the first, who is the first laureate of the project. And stay tuned because soon we will launch a new a new open call for artists in the framework of RealIn project. So just to say a final word about this, for us, what may be the most important in this kind of, let's say, big projects and multidisciplinary project is this co-creation process, meaning how you will put artists, engineers, scientists, developers, but also festivals, residency venues, producer at the same table, how you will let's say, share the same language, and also how you will maintain the energy all along the project, because for us it meant several years of co-creation and also several problems and fails and trying things from scratch and everything. So yes, I can only agree with Mathieu that let's say gathering the most the most big number of partners in the project is the best solution. And for us, what is interesting also is that, for example, Julie Desmet-Weaver, the stage director we worked with on the Écume des Jours, is now working on her new interactive experience, and she will base it on the technological concept we developed together with the technical team. And this is also for us as producer where a new kind of magic happens when we realize that what we achieved is also to offer these new perspectives to artists so they can continue to offer new, innovative and unique experience to share with the public. So thank you very much for your attention. And now I let you in company of Mathieu and Melanie for the live demo, I guess.
Thank you so much, Marie. And yeah, I'm here again with Mathieu. What would you say? What are the biggest obstacles? Obviously, now one is Corona. You actually plan to be at the residence. So, what are the next plans? And what would you say? How can you overcome obstacles and hurdles creating immersive environments?
Good question. I won't answer mentioning the financial part or the technological part. You know, the main obstacle that we always have to face is a human one. When you are working on projects that will last 3 or 4 years with a high risk of non-feasibility, everything is complex in terms of human relationship. So if I have one advice to give, and if I can share my experience, the main obstacle always is how you will keep the energy and the good relationship with a multicultural team, with developers, with artists, with traditional places. How do you do that? And the way you will select all the members of the team is the key. Don't pick only the best. Pick the one that you want to work with during different years and that you are very sure that they will be partners all the way along.
And now we are going to meet one of your developers, or developers you're working with together.
Yeah, we are working with them. Their name is Vincent and Nicolas. They are forming a wonderful team named Illumine, and I will let the audience with them. And it's with them that we have developed all the interactive part of First of a Daydream.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you,
then
Melanie.
let's meet these.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you. So now it's time to learn a bit more about the 3D scanning technologies. And here I'm seeing Vincent.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So you have been starting coding at the age of 9 years.
Yeah, it's so.
And you hold a PhD in computer science. So, and I see some dots on the screen. So
Yeah.
what is it about?
So this is a point cloud. This is just to show what it looks like when you are captured in 3D by a Kinect. And this point cloud is then used for several projects. So first, we at Illumine is a standalone company by Nico and I, where we develop our own tools for real-time 3D capture and interactions. And we work with artists and developers to create interactive experience. You've seen the previous interactive experience just before in the project On Danse. And we also have another project that you have been seeing the beginning of, the First of Daydream. And on this project, we used our tools to tell the story. And this story has to be told in a way that is transparent. So we use real-time 3D capture technology that we develop, and we make it so that it disappears for the story to be told. Long story short, you may have a little excerpt on an example of how technology disappears. For the First of Daydream that you see, there is an interaction part where people have to play a piano called Pianoctail. And so we use their movements to go to where they are hitting on the keys of the pad, and then it's help the composition being brought to the people in real time. That's one of the examples we had, and this used only the point cloud, but the very important part is that it has to be quick and real time so as to feel natural. The real-time part is the one that makes you feel and touch, like in virtual reality, but without the need for a helmet. So now
one tool we have been talking about is this camera,
yeah,
right? The
because
Kinect.
we're here to work with another project with Gibson and Martelli that you will be seeing later on the project Dazzle, which is great. And we are trying to see how we can use these point clouds to guess your postures.
Oh, now
the postures of
I'm
player.
a skeleton.
Yeah, this is the skeleton, which is basically what we interpret from the point cloud that we capture from you. And this may be used to adapt Dazzle to real life, meaning that the players will be able to play without helmets and without any joystick or control mechanism. And
okay, so we will learn about Dazzle later more. Yeah.
But for example, we can use this skeletal projection to animate an avatar
Okay.
And an avatar is a virtual persona. So, for example, people working with Unreal Engine can use this texture to animate a persona that will participate in their own game. So at the moment, we are developing a technology to bring this real-time 3D capture to Unreal, but with several cameras at the same time. This is an example with one camera, so you're in France.
So here's only one camera, but
Yeah.
usually you use like many cameras to have all the angles,
Yeah,
right?
the crux of the problem is doing this with many cameras. And for example, as you can see, this example is very jerky, and we use the use of several cameras to enhance the fluidity of the movement and to be able to have several persons interacting at the same time in a whole room, like you see in the Froth of Daydream in the example I showed you,
Yeah.
or in the On Danse representation.
So this is my avatar now.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
but I cannot turn my head like he did.
No,
just-
you see,
he
for,
just did.
this is, for example, a big limitation of having only one camera. This is
Yeah.
a perfect example. So having several cameras is something that permits to have the whole experience. But if you do that, you have to be very fast and real time.
Yeah.
You also have to remove the jerkiness and the delay. So that's what we work on.
Okay,
These
okay. So it's not that easy to have it in real time. You really need the help
Yeah,
of
it
great
has a lot of
developers to do
work.
so.
Yeah, that's where we put our brains into.
Yeah.
But we also want to be with the artist, because having the technical side is one thing, but it has to disappear to tell the story. And that's what we concentrate on with the artist afterwards. And for example, in the Froth of Daydream, the question was to not see the technique, to not see the 3D, to not see all this technology, because people have to be concentrate on the end. And the end in the story hits, and it hits hard. And you don't want to waste technology between the story and the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I think we have a bit of understanding of what message we want to pass and how to pass it. And technology is just a way that we are able to do to help this.
Yeah. And these tools you're using here, are they accessible to many people, or is it really important? I mean, you said this is just a small setup here, right?
Yeah. So example is that at the moment, for the project we have developed, the tech that we have is quite bulky. Today, we could, with COVID restrictions, only bring one computer and a standalone camera with just a few examples to give you a taste. But this is not our software. Our software resides with a hardware that is quite big at the moment. We're also working with Dazzle to try to have some portable mechanisms, to try to develop stuff that are easier to make and easier to transport, so that artists can also bring back their work home and have free time to play with it, so that it's less bulky. But that's a second step. The first step was first to get it done and get it done in real time, and having it so fluid that you can forget about it.
Right, right. So there might be many people now asking themselves, okay, I want to do this as well. So how can artists find good developers? Do you have a tip?
Good developers are hard to find. Okay, if you really want them, go to coding parties. Coding parties are where the real developers reside. There is the very good cookie party in Paris. Yeah, I think you also have to have a sense of the artistic impulse. So it's not only just about the code. Really, I want to stress that, because coding is like something I love to do. I really love to do. But if it doesn't tell a story, what's it worth?
Mm-hmm.
It's like writing. I could write letters with nonsense all day long, and it would not make a story for such.
So this is why you started working with art, because first you were in research, right?
So yeah, I've been doing a lot of computer science, and I did some research during my career. I have a PhD on algorithmics and computer networks, and I studied the ways human move. So it relates a bit to how human moves right now, but not in the same technical sense. It was more of a sociological explanation. And yes, we've been developing this camera system since 2015, and we've done it like just at the beginning for the fun of seeing if it could be done. And once we saw we could do it, we made little experiments with it, and then we went on with Black Euphoria to produce an experiment and another experiment, and we are going to be working, as you will see later on another project. So yes, it's a long background of technology that recently concretized in some artistic collaborations.
So now we all know we have to go to coding parties.
And you can also go to the Facebook page Inlumine. So
Inlumine, of course.
Hiring
you.
INLUM.IN.
Working together with you. It's both of you, right?
Yeah, it's Nicola Gambini and myself. Maybe we can show you Nicola Gambini.
As a skeleton. Nicola in the background.
Nicola Gambini. And he comes from a cinema background, and that's very important to get to know how to tell the story. Really, really. I want to stress that the technical part is really important, but then it has to get away.
There are also many artists who learn coding themselves. So are there also tools you can recommend that are not so too hard to learn?
I guess that the question is now settled. Like, Unity is now the best tool to get fiddling with and get creating without all the hassle of the technique. And it has decent performance. There is also the Unreal Engine that is very good for content creation, but that is a bit more specialized in games. Whereas Unity is more all-encompassing. And I think that artists need to have these tools to not... Getting the technique is good to fiddle with stuff, and then there is the optimization of the process for real performance, which is another part. And we try to make the black boxes that go quick, and then plug them for the artist to play with from Unreal Engine or Unity. So yes, I would recommend using Unity.
Okay, great. So you have mentioned Dazzle. For those who don't know, Dazzle is the project that won the first open call. So, and we will talk with some of the artists later. So what have you planned?
So right now we're in the beginning. We still don't know because it's Dazzle's project, but since the COVID restrictions are hard to make people work together, and that this work has to be made in situ, in place, we are building for them a little plugin to try the skeleton recognition on their Unreal project in the way that the big system may work. So we are shortening and making more portable parts of our system to put them to artists so that they can know what they will do, because the technique has to disappear so the artist can create. And that's what we're working on right now. Afterwards, we'll have a residency with the artist, but meanwhile, we want to give the artist something to fiddle with at home and get to know what he wants.
One very practical question. How much does it cost to have these Kinect cameras and work with them?
Actually, these Kinect cameras are made by Microsoft. They are sold online for quite cheap, less than 500 euros, something like 400. And the problem is that the software supporting the camera is very basic. The integration with Unity is at the moment quite jerky, like you had seen in the screen. And so there needs to be good
I look
tools
a bit
with
spooky.
yeah, this is quite jerky, and you need better than that. It's so sad that because of COVID restrictions, you cannot see the whole big framework with several cameras, but people will get to experience it in Avignon, in l'Écume des Jours, are going to experience it with Dazzle afterwards, and that's our goal. But right now, I think it's up to the team of Dazzle to explain their project, because we're just the technique.
Well, a very important part. Thank you so much.
Thank you, you
We've
too.
learned a lot. Thank you, Vincent.
And thank you too for the questions, and thanks for Vrham for hosting us, and Black Euphoria for the recent project that we've been working together on, which are very interesting.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vincent.
Bye.
Bye. And now we really want to talk about Dazzle, talk with Dazzle, find out what they are doing. And I see one part of Dazzle already in a great costume. Biene, maybe you come on in. And I put my mask on.
Yes,
You're wearing a great costume. What
Am
is it about?
So this is one of our costumes that we're sort of working, or what we've sort of developed during the time, but it's actually from a futurist back in 1919 called Tayat, who made the zero waste pattern of a costume and put that actually into a magazine back then. Yeah, and people were actually able to buy the magazine or the newspaper and then explore the zero waste pattern through that and sort of make their own tutor suits. So this is also something that we sort of took on for our project.
Great.
Yes.
Great. So you're one part of Dazzle.
Exactly. So I'm one part of Dazzle. So I'm part of Participatory, who's actually formed by Alexa Pullman and me. And then the second part is Gibson Martelli, who's Bruno Martelli and Ruth Gibson. And we both studios, and we've been working on this project since 2019 now. So quite a while, but obviously also due to the pandemic had a bit more time now to develop. We share practice, or we share a common practice in terms of what we're doing with VR and AR and all new immersive technologies. And obviously now what we can see now is also within performance and dance and fashion. So this is how the project sort of evolved with our shared knowledge.
And I think you started as a VR project, so was it hard to find different ways for immersive experiences?
No, I think we didn't really start I think the overall kind of thing is always participatory participatory engagement, so sort of having the audience sort of coming together. And I think then you have different parts of the project sort of coming in. Obviously you could have motion capture systems that sort of can be designed, a VR experience that can be designed, AR experience that can be designed, so there are different kind of angles coming in. So therefore, all of our sort of specialisms come in. So that's quite nice because we all come from different angles.
Yeah. And what are your next plans?
So next plans obviously is we're super excited to be the ones going to Marseille and working on the RealIn residency. So that's going to happen end of July. Due to the pandemic, obviously this had been a bit postponed, but we're super excited to be part of the residency and being able to develop more of our ideas.
Yeah, we are also very excited to see more. And now we are connected with the other part of Dazzle in London.
So I can already see Bruno on the screen. So sadly enough, I'm the only one sort of who can be here because I'm working with the German Museum of Technology at the moment on novel accessories like motion capture accessories in Berlin. So I'm the only one, sadly enough, being in Germany. So we've got Bruno now sitting there, and then hopefully also Alexa, I think. Running out, Bruno.
And Alexa is also in London.
Yeah, she's also in London. So both of them are in our studio, or in Bruno's studio, in Ruth's studio. And Ruth can't be joining today as well because she's, unfortunately also not there. But
so altogether, you were 4 people, or how big is
it's
Dazzle?
well, Dazzle has sort of evolved, and I think there's because we are sort of, our practice is sort of really collaborative. So there are a lot of people sort of coming in and out and supporting the project. So there've been the main core people are the 4 of us, but then there are different kind of people also working on different things VR, sort of creating avatars. So we also have Oliver Frobel on the team, and Paul Steinmann making music. Piero Glina is also another artist that sort of joined us just recently, and they're different kind of people sort of always implementing into Dazzle. So it's quite nice because you learn so much from each other now.
Wow, and as a visitor, will I get such a costume, or how does it work?
Yeah, so the main idea would be sort of, because there's also all the participatory engagement that we sort of have, is that you sort of you're getting into the exhibition, you're getting dressed up, you're physically getting dressed up, not only VR dressing up, so you get the full kind of immersive experience once you're actually in VR as well. And then you'd sort of go on and get the VR headset on, and then you can immerse into these different kind of worlds that we've created.
Okay.
Diverse kind of avatars, all black and white at the moment, but we're sort of working on maybe also implementing color then later on, because at the moment, as you can see, all the Dazzle sort of patterns are all black and white.
Yeah.
Sort of coming from back, but that's sort of something that Alexa and Bruno will be talking a bit more about, because they are talking about the history and sort of where the project comes from, and then also about the RealIn residency and our sort of intentions and what we are trying to do.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see more. So, what kind of worlds are you creating in black and white? It's you create illusions, right?
Yeah, they're quite illusionative, but we sort of we're quite. In the beginning, it was quite a thing that we sort of started and not making real worlds, so that they're super real, that you're sort of thinking you're actually in a normal kind of setup. So it's all kind of illusionary black and white patterns. Sort of you're as well sort of dressed up. You see yourself as in the avatar, being a different kind of character. So it's also all around storytelling, having these different kind of characters there as well, representing you in a different sort of theme. But I think,
Yeah, well, I thank you so much for the information, Biene, and I think now we are all curious to see more. Hello, Alexa and Bruno in London.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
We hand over to you.
Okay, so we're just going to play a video right now. So this is the cue to play the video. So I think it's back to me now. So what you just saw and what you heard was a VR screen recording of Dazzle. which is a mixed media performance existing in many modes. And we want the RealIn residency to develop this immersive experience into a mediated space that delves into the optical convolutions of Dazzle camouflage. We showed a single player version of Dazzle as a VR work as part of the London Film Festival Expanded programme last October in the UK, and the sort of write-up said, giddying perspectives, algorithmic choreography, and psychedelic dancing figures, humanoid, geometric, or entirely abstract, that can pass right through you like digital ectoplasm. And I'll just talk a little bit about the history. The concept for the Dazzle project originated with the Chelsea Arts Club's 1919 Dazzle Ball, one of the first events to reopen the Royal Albert Hall after the darkness of World War I. I'm just going to jump into a slide. Come on, mouse. So Dazzle is a marine camouflage mainly applied to merchant shipping. So the bold geometric shapes were designed to confuse enemy submarines rather than conceal. And our project reinterprets Dazzle with an immersive exhibition showcasing live performance in VR. A watershed moment synchronous with modernism 100 years ago. In the post-war world, Futurism, Cubism, Dada, Coco Chanel, Dior and the Bauhaus coalesced in the Dazzle Ball. Guests wore black and white costumes designed by officers from the Dazzle ships, and women wore trousers as evening wear for the first time. We're on another cusp 100 years later with a kind of post-internet, new aesthetics and new identities, and we're looking at combining multi-user immersive spaces with live performance controlling avatars with costumes and music. Participants are moving into active roles using costume, set, virtual reality and interactive live performance. And responding to the current situation, we're also, as a sort of sideline, developing a multi-user online version. Our process has involved developing a sustainable open source tool set that allows real-time streaming of mocap performance for remote users. So within the project, the Dazzle Collective has been creating zero-waste costumes for our audience. Multiple teams of fashion designers and fashion students and groups from around the globe, and pictured here is Pforzheim University, have been designing and making unique garments. Each one has a Dazzle pattern and each is zero waste, which basically means that no offcuts are left over from the pattern. And I'm just going to show you, this is a picture of the website, the Dazzle Collective site, and each of these open source garments can be downloaded in pattern form from our Dazzle Collective website to encourage a sort of maker culture of homemakers to make their own costume for the Dazzle Ball. And it represents a sort of non-Euro-American perspective on fashion, I guess. And I'm just going to get my mouse back down again, it's uncontrollable. This is another example of one of the open source patterns, and I'll just show you another one as well. And you can see that there's been a huge amount of effort's gone into the kind of designing and making of these great garments. And here is one of the actual patterns itself. This is all going to make sense with immersive technology in a minute, trust me. And so this is a downloadable pattern. It looks really complex, but it kind of isn't. It scales up to the 1.4 meter standard fabric roll width, and the seams are pretty much all straight, so it's actually really easy to cut out. And the color sections in the pattern join together into the matching colors to create the garment. And now I'm just going to hand over to Alexa, who's going to talk about some of our ideas and possible explorations. So,
well, yeah, thank you, Bruno. So yeah, I think for Dazzle and for this residency, really, one of our main aims is and has always been to convert audiences into participants. So we are quite wary that we don't want to produce necessarily this really straight line of interactions, but instead we want to allow our audiences to explore and discover things. So yeah, also in general with the Dazzle project, really, we are not really copying or replicating the real world, but instead we really want to use this expanded field of possibilities with stylization and abstractions in the virtual. So what we believe is that this will really allow room for the audience to imagine and to fill up the gaps themselves. So even though, of course, we are sort of immediately thinking of reproducing virtual bodies when we use motion capture, motion tracking like Kinect, we really suggest to not show figures directly, but instead we will use the audience's movement to influence the visuals that are seen on screen indirectly. And so for the experience itself, what we imagine so far is a room with an immersive 360 screen, quite similar to what Dark Euphoria have used before. And on this, you will then see a projected view into the virtual space where it surrounds the audience, and the camera viewpoint that should then also correspond with the audience position. We have to, of course, kind of speculate on what we're doing because the residency had to be pushed back due to the pandemic, but we're really excited about it. So what you see now is sort of one of the shaders that we started to dive into. And what we imagine is that in this room there will be multiple participants, and they will have a shared experience where they should quickly realize that their presence affects the pattern that they see on screen, which then shapeshifts and responds to their own movement. So in an ideal scenario, we would really like the participants to sort of start compete over their own influence on the pattern. And another essential part of immersion for us is really this multisensory approach. So the first step in converting audiences into participants is by making them an actual part of the spectacle. And so within Dazzle, we will then allow them to choose from the pre-produced zero-waste outfits, so our audiences can dress up when they come in. And some of these you have seen earlier, of course. We are also wearing them ourselves today. We are quite happy to wear them for the first time properly on stage, sort of. But for the RealIn residency, we also aim to use these costumes as an extra level of interactivity. So what we want for them to happen is that they become interactive triggers. This is one of the patterns, or you will see a couple of patterns actually that are printed on the garments. And I should say that the outfits are unique items, and they draw from a library of Dazzle type fabric prints, which by themselves also have been procedurally generated inside the game engine using our custom materials. So with these garments, we really want to try a couple of experiments. So first, the costumes are sort of becoming the input, and the specific fabric pattern is then detected and matched on screen by our shader. And we have a couple of approaches of doing this that we intend to test. We have done in the past things like using garments as AR markers, but we also have done another project before where we experimented with screen printing. This was quite experimental still, but it is quite nice because then you can sort of print invisible patterns onto the garments with infrared paint. And so they really then are sort of concealed ID tags. And this is something, yeah, as said, we sort of started on before, never tried it in real life, so quite excited about it. But also, of course, we could test out RFID tags and embed them in the garment, which is quite commonly now in fashion to track garments. But of course, there's a certain distance we would have to match, so that's another thing to watch out for. So this about the garments, but also I think it's really important to come back to what we want to focus on in regards to movement and how that movement would actually then affect the generating parameters of the patterns that you see on screen. So what we will do is that we use the output skeleton bone rotations from the detected participants. And this data then actually feeds into the garment engine as OSC feed, so open sound control, and they then really, these changing values sort of affect the material parameters. And the materials then are used as a virtual set that surrounds the audience. And I know Nicholas and Vincent have been working on a tool that takes the Kinect and gives OSC out for testing.
And you've seen it earlier, how this looks.
Yeah, exactly. And Tina Sauerländer actually earlier mentioned in her talk that the body is an interface, and I love it because I always say the body is an interface in my own practice, so it's great to hear that. And another, so this is really about the movement, but it's quite important for us as well to look at what we realized actually working with our dancers, which is that they start to experiment when they see themselves on screen. And what we realize is that they kind of their improvisation changes, so they respond to the representation of themselves. And what really happens there is that the dancer's movement vocabulary actually expands by learning phrases not from a live dancer, so not from someone who is present, but from an avatar in the virtual world. And things like having an avatar that has a different body shape and so on really helps them to imagine a different motion in the end. So for this residency, what we want to do is we want to encourage this kind of interaction with our audiences so that they take a playful approach themselves. And we hope that that will also help to actually lessen the threshold of interaction and the fear of performing when you are in these installations. Another thing really for RealIn, we really intend to make it an audience-facing project. This is quite important to both of our studios as it is a big part of our practices. But we want to test these interactions with our performers. So the method that we actually often use is called body storming, and it really helps to develop immersive experiences and interactions that invites the dancers to play with the technology and use their own bodies to explore it, as described earlier. But we also believe that it really helps to produce a much less streamlined experience. So it then also creates sort of multiple points of entry that make an experience overall more bespoke. And yeah, I guess lastly, what I really want to mention as well is that what I described so far is, of course, you see this direct interaction happening within this room, but we really like the idea that when you sort of zoom out and you see people watching other people in the room, they actually become second-order spectators. And within that, there's a lot of beauty, and I think especially looking at this, these people who are dressed up in Dazzle in front of the background that it dazzled, you get this figure ground situation. And that is for us, of course, interesting because it talks about concealing. It also talks about the crossing between the different realities. And yeah, so this form, this second-order spectatorship really helps not just the people interacting with the screen directly to have a great experience, but also the audiences that might not feel comfortable yet to actually go in and perform themselves. And so I think that the bystanding audience is something that we would like to also have an outstanding experience, and I think that that offers that still. So yeah, Dazzle is actually really developed by a team of people and supported by our funders, and all of this is info you can actually find on our website, dazzle1919.com. We are quite a huge team. You see just a couple of us at the moment. And I guess, yeah, Bine, back over to you.
Okay, thanks to both of you like for presenting the project. Yeah, sort of, I think the only thing sort of to mention, and maybe just briefly like summing it up in a way, sort of that our practices sort of transcends disciplinary boundaries that separate dance, film, and contemporary art. Yeah, and our intentions for the RealIn is to discover like this real-time volumetric captures and how this increases human-computer interactions in the context of our immersive installations. So currently, so what we're trying to do is creating like new spaces for performance and converting like sort of audiences from passive spectators into like the active participants. And I think we've also heard that sort of from Dark Fourier beforehand, where they also mentioned like working on interaction and creating like collective interaction. And I think that's sort of definitely where like we stand and where we sort of like support, or that's where our practice sort of leads to. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Bine. Can't wait to see more. Thank you to all the speakers today. Thanks to Ulrich Schraut and his team. And of course, thank you to everyone who was joining this convention. If you are now curious, there will be more. There will be workshops. There will be more open calls and conventions. So just check out the RealIn website and you will find out more. We have now a lunch break. And after that, some of you will join the workshops. So just go to your Zoom link and we're happy to see you there. Thanks so much. Bye.